بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد سيد المرسلين وخاتم النبيين وعلى آله وأصحابه الطيبين الطاهرين ومن اتبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له، وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم لا سهل إلا ما جعلته سهلا، وأنت يا حي يا قيوم تجعل الحزن إذا شئت سهلا. اللهم ذكرنا ما نسينا، وعلمنا ما جهلنا، وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. اللهم إنا نعوذ بك من حال أهل النار الله تعالى. I start in the name of Allah. I glorify Him and I thank Him for all the blessings that He gives without Him being obligated. The law that He has given us access to the knowledge of Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah with the connected authentic chains that validate and authenticate the knowledge leading back to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. because it is the knowledge of Ahlul Sunnah by which the individual will become amongst the people of distinction, meaning he'll be among the people who can know the difference between what's right and what's wrong. He can know the difference between what is valid and what is invalid. He can know the difference between what is the correct path and what is the misguided path. So this is the way, the key to paradise. It is the knowledge of Ahlul Sunnah. So the one who has access to it and the one who is able to learn it and to implement it, then that person is definitely blessed. That person has a great endowment from Allah Ta'ala. So we're going to continue talking about the sins of the abdomen. The last thing that we explained was about the slaughtering. And we went through a lot of details. We explained the way that the slaughtering takes place. What are the conditions for the slaughter to be valid? We explained the case of if you're able to control the animal, how it's slaughtered, and if the animal is running wild, how it's slaughtered. We talked about the case of the suspicious meat or the meat that has a doubt, and we explained the details regarding that. The last thing that we want to talk about, or the last thing that we want to mention, is about just a final advice. Literally, just the hunger that you feel in your stomach. That itself is not. It's not worth going to or committing a sin. It's not worth committing a sin. And some people, they are so attached to their bellies that it's as if they don't care about their situation in the hereafter. And so they do not uh they do not fear Allah and they eat whatever. They 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 put things into their body, they put things into their stomach that they're not allowed just because of a desire that they feel. So as Muslims, we have to be strong. And as Muslims, we have to realize that it's not about our feelings in those cases. It's not about, I want to eat or I'm hungry. So let me go do that and let me not care about my hereafter. No, it's even though I feel this way, even though I feel hungry, even though this is what I want, but because it's haram, because it's forbidden, then I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna leave it out. This is the mentality that we had to teach our children that even though you feel, even though you feel like you really want it, you have to go against yourself. And we have to teach our children that they can't uh, put, for example, their wants and their desires above everything else. If their want and their desire is something that goes against what Allah made permissible, then that want and that desire, the person has to ignore it. And or that want and desire doesn't matter. And as getting older, or when getting older, the child that has the proper teaching, when he becomes older, he'll know, he'll say to himself, even though I feel this or that, I'm not going to disobey Allah. Even though I feel this or that, I'm not going to say that word. Even though I feel this or that, I'm not going to do such and such an action. Even though I'm really tired, but I know Fajr is in, I'm going to get up, I'm going to make wudu, and I'm going to pray. So this is how the person must train their nafs, have to discipline their nafs. Um, so moving on now to the next uh sin of the abdomen, which is consuming the money of an orphan or the religious trust, the waqf, as it's known in Arabic, in a way that is contrary to what the one who endowed it, the conditions that the one who endowed it set. So we explained this before. We said like if a person has some land and then they do a specific religious process and they turn that land, let's say, into a masjid. So now that land that was his was private property. Now it becomes um, basically not owned by any one individual, and it becomes basically property of the Muslim nation. And that land is used as a masjid, and it can only be used as a masjid, and it cannot be used as anything else. So this is called a waqf. So the thing becomes a waqf based on the wording of the one who made the waqf. So, for example, the person who owned the land, or the person who owned the building, or the person who, uh, and it could be land, it could be like a building, it could be money, it could be like a garden. So if like someone has a garden or someone has like a farm and they do the process of the waqf, which is like a religious trust. And they say, for example, this garden, I now make this garden a waqf for the poor Muslims all over the world. So then everything that the garden produces can only be used by poor Muslims, cannot be used by anybody else. Because the owner, the one who was the owner when he made it a waqf, when he made the religious charitable trust, he specified that it was for the poor Muslims. So anyone who's not a poor Muslim is excluded. Same thing, like if someone made a waqf for um let's say a school. So they had a building and they said, I want to turn this school and make this school waqf for the students of the Islamic law according to the school of Imam Shafi'i. So once he does that, once he dedicates that place, or um, once he does the process of the waqf, and then that building becomes not under his possession anymore, and then so only students of knowledge that study the Islamic law according to the madhab of Imam Shafi'i can go to that school. Nobody else. So that's what it means. To consume money from a religious charitable trust in a way that is contrary to the conditions set by the one who endowed it. Then the author said, to consume what was obtained by way of shyness without goodwill of the giver. SubhanAllah, this is something that happens a lot, and many Muslims they don't even realize it, that they should be careful. So basically, this means that if someone, if they ask another Muslim for something, and that Muslim, he doesn't want to give it to him, but he gives it to him because he is shy to say no, then the person who takes it, they commit a sin. And the person who takes it, that thing does not become theirs Islamically. So they would have to give it back. And this is due to the hadith. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, لا يحل مال امرئ مسلم إلا بطيب نفس منه. Which means it is not permissible to consume the money of any Muslim except with his acceptance. So, among the sins of the abdomen is to consume what is taken from someone else without their goodwill. Like that person gave them something out of shyness from him or from those that are present in the session, so that it is not said about him stingy. So the one who takes something from a Muslim by way of shyness is forbidden upon him to consume it, and it does not enter into his possession, and he is obligated to return it. Now, this is the case when taking something from someone, or when something is being given to the person for free. Like for example, you walk in, there's a person there, it's like, oh wow, this is such a beautiful scarf. Can I have it? And so the person that's standing there wearing the scarf, they're kind of shocked and they're saying, "MashaAllah," and it's a situation that they weren't anticipating, and because they don't want to tell the person no because they're shy, or because they don't want to say they don't want to say no to this person in front of all these people. The person says, "Yeah, sure, you can have it," and then they give it to that person. Uh, or for example, the person walks in, um, "Hey, that's a nice backpack. Can I have it? Hey, that's a nice this. Can I have it?" Or if you have, let's say, candy or a bag of chips or something, and the person sees you and says, "Can I have some?" And the person doesn't want to give it, but out of shyness, he gives it, then it's haram for the person to take it. As for making someone buy something out of shyness, this is not forbidden. So basically, if someone comes into my store and they're just looking for something to buy, and I tell them, for example, "Oh yeah, buy this one. It's good," without lying or anything. So buy this one. It's good. Uh, uh everybody has it, etc. And the person's like hesitant to buy it, and he tells them, for example, "Come on, buy it. Don't don't be that person that doesn't buy it," or whatever they use, whatever tactic to get them to buy it. The person, they feel shy to say no to buying it, and so they end up buying it, and they don't want to buy it. So this is not forbidden. This is not sinful. This is permissible. It is halal. So it's not the same as when you see someone wearing something nice and you tell them, "Hey, that's beautiful. Can I have it? Will you give it to me?" Or if you see someone like eating food or candy or chips or something, you say, "Can I have some? Can I have some of this? Can I have some of that? Give me this, give me that." If the person does not want to give it to you, and the only reason that they do it is because they feel shy to say no, then this is haram for the person to consume. It's haram for the person to consume it. And it doesn't go into his possession. Any questions about that before moving on to the sins of the eye? Yeah, so basically should um every Muslim should be careful, and he should not ask another person for something, to give them something. Never ask another Muslim to give you something. Because how can you be sure that they're saying yes out of goodwill? How can you be sure that they aren't just giving it to you out of shyness? Really, you can't. You can't be sure. All you can do is assume, but you don't want to take that risk. Because you don't know yourself, for example, how someone feels about that thing. And they might not really want to give it, but they're shy to say no. So be very careful with that. طيب. Now for the sins of the eye. Among the sins of the eye are for men to look at the bare faces and hands of marriageable women with desire, and to look at other bare parts of their body, and whether it's with desire or not. Likewise, it is sinful for women to look at men if their gaze is directed at what is between the navel and the knees without a barrier, and looking at the awrah overall is sinful. So this comes down to what is the awrah and what is not. Whatever is the awrah, it's forbidden to look at it, and it's forbidden to look at it uncovered, whether or not the person has desire when they're looking at it. So if one person looks at another person's awrah, it's forbidden even if they don't feel any desire. Now, for other than the awrah, if the person looks at it without desire, then there's no sin. If the person looks at it with desire, then it becomes a sin. So, what is the awrah for the free woman? The awrah for the free woman uh, outside and in public is her entire body except her face and her hands. So that's why the author said if someone looks at a woman's face or hands with desire, then it's a sin. If someone looks at a woman's face and hands without desire, then there is no sin. So to look at the face and the hands of a strange woman with desire is forbidden, in contrast to looking at what is other than her face and her hands, because it is forbidden, even if it is without desire. So if the person looks without intention, unintentionally, like his eyesight fell on her, or intentionally to her face and her hands without desire, and then he felt some pleasure, he is obligated to uh, lower his gaze, or he's obligated to look away. So before the person starts to feel pleasure when looking, he doesn't get a sin. He is not sinful for that. Then when the person starts to feel the desire, he has to look away. So looking at the face and the hands of the strange woman without desire, it has been conveyed by some scholars that it is permissible by consensus. So we should not pay any attention to anyone who says that it is not permissible to look at the woman's face and hands at all. That is incorrect information. There might be some supposed scholars that, or some people that have famous names amongst the scholars that might have said that, but it's a mistake. The wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they had a special judgment. So the wives of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they were obligated to cover their faces. So as long as the person is looking at other than the awrah without desire, then this is permissible. The moment that the desire has to, or the moment that the person feels the desire when looking, then they have to stop. And remember, this is for other than the awrah. When it comes to the awrah, the person cannot look at it at all, whether with desire or without desire. So I hope that is clear. And then without getting into all the details, is that if it's other than the awrah, whether it's male looking at female or female looking at male, if it's other than the awrah, as long as it's without desire, it's permissible. The moment that it becomes with the feeling of desire, then it is forbidden. This is for other than the awrah. When it comes to the awrah, then it is forbidden to look at it with or without desire. Now here's a beneficial information, and it's something that happened during the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So a man amongst the companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, one day he saw a woman that he liked. Yani he liked the way she looked. So he started following her with his eye. So as he's following her with his eye, he ran into a wall, and with his face, and he began to bleed. Then he told the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam about what happened. And so the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, أنت عبد أراد الله بك خيرا. Narrated by Hakim. And it means that this running into the wall, which caused the blood to come out from your face, Allah Ta'ala erase some of your sins. And Allah Ta'ala erase the sin of that look. Because if Allah wills goodness for a slave, he makes that slave pay for his sins, or he relieves that slave of his sins in this world. And if Allah did not will goodness for the person in the hereafter, then those sins are delayed, or the the consequences of those sins are delayed until the hereafter. And so it's better for the person to pay for his sins now in this world than to pay for them in the hereafter. And certain things that happen with the Muslim, they are it's like a payment for the sins. So in this particular case, that companion, he was walking and he was looking at a woman that with desire, and he was looking at her, uh, following her with his eye, and he ran into the wall and he bled. So because of that, the sin of him watching her was erased, or that erased that sin. Now, here's another important case: is that the great Imam, who is known as Al-Qadi Iyad, he conveyed the consensus that it is permissible for the woman to leave her house with her face uncovered. And he said the the man, he is obligated to look away. So some late Hanafis that said that it's forbidden for the woman to leave the house with their face uncovered. And there's some late Hanafis that they said that during their time, though it's forbidden for the woman to walk out of the house with her face uncovered, claiming that it's to avoid fitna and to avoid sedition, is rejected. This is rejected because the fitna of like looking, and let's say one man looking at a woman that was beautiful with desire, that fitna, it existed during the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and before it, before the Prophet's time, and after the Prophet's time, and during the Prophet's time. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he also uh, addressed this, saying, "كل عين زانية," which literally means every eye looks the forbidden look. But the meaning is most people look the forbidden look. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was aware that uh, most people, they would, let's say, look at someone and feel desire, and so they would commit a sin. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was aware of that. And even though that's the case, he did not say the women have to cover their faces before they go outside. So the fitna of people looking at things that they're not forbidden to look, things that they're forbidden to look at. Um, this is a fitna that was present during the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and a fitna that was present after the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It's not something that just happened in the 11th century. So if you find in any of the later Hanafis books like Durr al-Mukhtar, that it says there, if that it's forbidden for the woman to leave the house with her face uncovered, then you should know that that is incorrect, and that is, yani, they have no proof, they have no evidence, and it's misguided. So when we said that it is forbidden to look at the awrah, when we said it is forbidden for um, to look at the unlawful nakedness, the awrah, so this applies to even the same gender. So it's not just, for example, between the opposite genders, not just if a guy looks at a woman or a woman looks at a guy. No, it's also if a woman looks at a woman or a man looks at a man. So amongst the same genders. So, for example, between a man and a man, it is the awrah between a man and a man is what is between the navel and the knees. So, a man cannot look at anything between the navel and the knees of another man. And the same thing for women. So now we have this detail about doctor, which we're going to mention. So for the doctor, there has to be an order that is followed because, for example, the doctor, let's say he needs to see, uh, the place where he has to do the treatment, and that woman that he's seeing is not his wife, and it's not his sister, and it's basically a stranger. So, but if it's for a need, if it's for any for treatment, then there's a certain exception that is made. But so, anyways, the scholars they said what is befitting for the order is to say if the part that needs to be cured or the ailment is in the face, then then there's no issue because as long as it's without desire, the person can look at the face, at the woman's face. And if it was another than the face, then if it was a woman, and if the person that needed the treatment was a woman, so then first they try to find a Muslim woman to do the treatment. If she cannot find, then a prepubescent Muslim boy that is not close to being pubescent. And if you cannot find, then a prepubescent boy that is not Muslim, that is not close to being pubescent. And if you cannot find, then a non-Muslim woman. And if you cannot find, then a male Muslim that is not related to her. And if you cannot find, then a male kafir. So it is understood from this that it is not permissible for the Muslim woman to go to the doctor while there is a female Muslim doctor. If going to that other doctor contained her uncovering her awrah, except if that other doctor was more skilled than the female Muslim doctor, or his fee or his cost was cheaper, or the like. When it comes to doctors, or going to the doctor, um, it's really something that should only be done when there is a need. It is not praised Islamically to go to the doctor for no reason. So it has to be for a need. And in order for, let's say, the person needs to like roll up their sleeve so that the doctor can give them an injection, or so the doctor can check their blood pressure, so the doctor can, let's say, look at it. It has to be for a need. It cannot be just, oh, check me out to see if there's anything wrong with me. I don't feel anything. I'm not sick. I just want to do a checkup. No, this does not work. It has to be for a need. So we mentioned for men or women to uncover the awrah in private needlessly is among the sins of the eye as well. So that means for if you're by yourself, like in your room or in your house, to uncover your awrah without a need, this is forbidden. Now, if it was for a need, like take a shower when you're changing your clothes, if you want to, let's say, cool off, if it's very hot and you want to cool off, then you can take your clothes off if you want. And we already mentioned that it is permissible to look at other than what's between the navel and the knees of a person of the same gender. So a man can look at, for example, a man's chest or his arms, his shoulders, everything except what's between the navel and the knees. Uh, and for the woman, the same. For a woman can look at a woman's hair, she can look at her neck, she can look at her chest, she can look at her arms, she can look at everything without desire, uh, outside of between the navel and the knees. But for what is between the navel and the knees, the man cannot look at another man, and the woman cannot look at another woman, even if it's without desire. So, for example, like when you go to the gym, some men in the gym they get completely naked in the locker room when they're changing their clothes. So this is haram to do because you cannot show your unlawful nakedness to say a person of the same gender. And finally, the last sin of the eye that we're mentioning is to look down on a Muslim and to look into someone else's house without their permission or at something they kept hidden. So it's forbidden to look down on a Muslim and to look at him like he's inferior. And it's forbidden to look into someone else's house without their permission. And if they have a window It's forbidden to like look through the window to see inside of their house without their permission. Or if a Muslim has something that he wants it to be private, like a diary or a journal or their phone, and someone else looks through it without their permission, this is haram. This is a sin of the eye. And God knows best. Next week, inshallah, we'll start with the sins of the tongue. See a question here. No, that's like I said, it's to go to the doctor and uncover the unlawful nakedness without a need is haram. So to uncover the lawful nakedness and to say like the person has to be careful that they're not there in the same room by themselves with the doctor, if they're opposite gender, etc. They have to be careful. It's not and I'll mention some other next time. But for now, we'll say that it is not permissible for a Muslim woman to uncover from her body in front of the non-Muslim woman except what the Muslim woman uncovers while she's doing chores, like her head and her forearm and her neck and half of her shin. And some scholars even went to the extent of saying that it is not permissible for her to uncover in front of the non-Muslim woman except what she uncovers in front of strange men. Yani facing her hands. And as for like uh when someone is really young, and if somebody's really young, then obviously, let's say if someone there's like a little boy or a little girl, and you see the little girl without a hijab, then this is permissible. And then we'll go over some other details inshallah next time. But also going to the doctor without a need is dispraised. Just going. But here we're talking specifically about uncovering the unlawful nakedness that it's only permissible when it's for a need. طيب, are there any other questions? طيب, هل إن الله اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم ربي اغفر لي وللمؤمنين والمؤمنات وبارك الله فيكم. السلام عليكم.